Welcome back to the BJJ Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ford. My guest today is a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a former professional MMA fighter. He's also a respected MMA and Jiu-Jitsu coach, formerly at ATT, and now teaching out of his own academy, Black Label Martial Arts in Charleston, South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be joined today for the second time in my podcasting career, by Professor Malachy Friedman. How are you today, Malachy?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
Great, man. It's good to be catching up with you. It's been about maybe a year and a half or 2 years since I interviewed you last. So
yeah, I think at least.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to catching up with you today, man. What have you been up to in the last couple of years?
Oh man, so COVID, and then
that whole
just it's hard to even think that was 3 years ago, but just getting my academy right, getting the culture correct. I think I've really hit a good stride with my culture in my gym. I'm going around. I'm doing some projects with some other MMA coaches. We're doing a winning corner MMA. It's me, Joachim, and Dennis Davis. We're all coaches for MMA, and we decided to put together an MMA stuff. So we've been working on a ton of different projects. I'm super busy with the Instagram stuff. I now hired somebody to do my stuff for me, and it worked out. So that's about it. I'm coming up with some new instructionals that I definitely am excited about.
I was just telling you off air how much I've been enjoying your Instagram content, man. You really put together quality Instagram videos, and I really enjoy the subjects and the topics that you touch on. I also appreciate that you focus a lot on techniques that require very little effort. Like you always show half guard sweeps that require almost nothing. Like if you just know technically what to do, you can spot the opportunities. I always love seeing content like that, rather than some long convoluted technique,
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I think if you so we're in an age where I think the guy who with the longest story, the longest allegory, the longest analogy or metaphor, and they just keep talking. And I think that fits a lot of guys well, at least, the circle that they're in. But I have problems watching instructionals nowadays. It's just God, dude, I understand that I want to put my hand here, but I don't want to understand all the bones and muscles in that hand. You know what I mean? I understand if I turn your wrist this way, you have more base. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know because there's a phalange joint that's connecting. So I think I've hit my audience with the stuff that I can do physically, and then the things I found that kind of adapt a little bit to my body and how the injuries I've been through and different stuff like that. And so how I can continue training, and also the most effective way, right? That's a whole thing for jiu-jitsu. It's what's the most effective, efficient way? And that's it. I still love goofy shit. I still love some of the really, really complex stuff, just because it's fun to see how far jiu-jitsu's come, and how, especially with the gi. The gi is the only thing where you can make somebody look like a marionette puppet, then flip around on it and land in your lap, But it's just, I think I hit a niche, and and it speaks to me and it speaks to the audience. So I'm lucky I found that.
It's funny. I hear people say things like that. Like some people like to hear the really, really uber detailed explanation of things, and others want to hear just the quick nitty gritty of everything. And and I'm kind of weird. Like if I'm going to start on a position, let's say I'm completely wanting to revisit leg locks in general.
Right.
I'd like a long, drawn out, deep explanation kind of thing. Versus if I want to have a quick reference, if I'm trying to fix a particular problem with, say, my half guard, I don't want to have to go through some long thing. I'd like to just find quick, snippets of, okay, how can I fix this particular little problem without having to, with being able to easily access it.
How I feel, and this is how I teach in my class, is that I give the most broad instruction that I can give. Then when they start to have problems with it, I add a new detail. And then I let them go, and then they have problems with something else, and then I add a new detail. So getting the broad stroke of the concept or the idea of what you're trying to do first is important. And then you get those guys doing it, and they're like, hey, I'm just not getting this foot off the floor. Be like, okay, you've been paying attention and you're drilling correctly, because you will have that issue. So if you put your hook like this at the end, you're going to have no weight on top of you. Just small things like that. But I think like I would love to do an instructional with how I teach my classes. It's broad stroke, get with that person, understand the very, very broad stroke of the leg. Let's say it's the leg lock, getting into the 50-50, right? Protecting your feet. That's important. And then you start to get into breaking levers. And then you get into what happens if they do this or if they do that, or, you know, what to add on top of what you've already learned, you know, because it's a huge world out there, you know, like especially when we're talking about leg locks now, you know, it's become very complex. You know, some people will disagree. I think it's the most complex thing out there, you know.
Leg entanglements are so dynamic in their nature that it's very hard to follow. It's almost hard to map it out on a linear level, on a linear way. You know,
right.
There's just so many moving parts and so many things that depend on what, you know, where you're at in the entanglement. So, yeah, I can definitely relate with you on that.
The Estima lock. You know what I mean? Like, I love the Estima lock. I call it the Tama lock, and Braulio got really mad at me about that. But Johnny Tama is the only one that's hitting it nowadays, right? So Johnny Tama is the only one crushing people with it. So I call it the Tama lock. And that got Braulio pissed, but, you know, it's all fair. I'm not, no beef, dude. But with the, you know, like I love that leg lock because I can understand less of the leg entanglements, but so few people go for the Estima that I have so much success in fighting for the legs, because people seem to only be interested in, you know, finding the heel, getting the heel hook, exposing this, and all of a sudden they leave their foot always pushing on my stomach, and I'm like, fuck, Estima lock. Thank God for the gi that only allowed us to know three submissions, and we got really good at it.
Yeah. Well, man, you know, speaking of all your content that you're putting out there, Malachy, one of the things I really like that you do is you aim specifically at different ranks and things that each rank should know by the time they move on to the next one. I kind of wanted to zoom on that a little bit today, if you don't mind, for our conversation.
Yeah, sure.
I think one of the hardest phases of the jiu-jitsu journey for most people is the blue belt. It's a stage. It's a stage of jiu-jitsu where you're familiar with the basics, and now you're trying to figure out your game. And it's also a rank where a lot of people quit. To kick things off, like, what do you consider a blue belt to be? Like, what's the difference between one of your blue belt students and one of your white belt students, besides time on the mat?
So the difference between my blue belt students is them. So they have a great amount of techniques that they're using. This is like, I don't do the year blue belt. You know what I mean? I don't do the 6 month. Never have I ever given a blue belt in under a year. Never have I. Like, year and a half means that you're kicking butt. You're doing all the work that you should be doing, and you're also special. 2 years is generally my area, 2 to 2.5 years. The truth of it is that there's a extreme watering down of blue belts. This may have been happening for a while, right? But you get coaches that are okay at blue, okay at purple, okay at brown, okay. They're okay, right? They're not top of their class, right? And I feel like once you get your black belt, it doesn't mean that you're a coach or you're at a level of teaching. You reach black belt because you're in that mid hustle, that midstream. It doesn't mean that you should be coaching anybody right now. But there's a lot of things that come into play, like capitalism, right? Because we want to keep our gyms open, we want to make money, and we want to feed our families. The biggest thing I will say for my blue belts is that they have a understanding of almost every position. They understand how to transition and move through, and they make better choices than most. So meaning, like, if somebody starts to turn into them, they can spin to the back, you know, like a knee on belly or just something like that, like where they're passing and they decide not to fight the front wall. They decide to go behind the wall, you know, to the back. Doing those kind of things are showing me that they're now, their brain is working faster and they're not having to think as much, and they're reacting more. But the main thing I tell every single one of my students is that I will not give a blue belt to somebody that cannot beat somebody who's never done jiu-jitsu before their first day. The only thing it excludes is high school state champions. You better be a state champion or collegiate level wrestler, because you should be able to at minimum dominate, control, or submit somebody that has no jiu-jitsu whatsoever. Blue belt means I know jiu-jitsu. It doesn't mean like I got beat up a bunch of jiu-jitsu and I know how to escape things. I hate that concept. If you take, I remember I gave a blue belt to one of these guys. This guy's about 5'3". I mean, not strong. He's strong now because he's gone like full, like, I can't remember who I'm thinking of. Like, I don't know. He's gone full, like winter Rocky Balboa, like he's in the gym doing like upside down handstands.
He did the montage.
Yeah. He's in the montage forever. But I remember when I was watching him and he went against this kid who was like a jock. He got the first brunt of it, like the kid like tackling him. And then he just turned it around and he murdered this kid, probably about 25 years younger than him, probably about 3 times as strong as him, and he just destroyed them. I'm like, that's exactly what it should be like. He should, that guy, that 21-year-old should be like, get the t-shirt. I got my ass kicked and all I got was this t-shirt. That's what he should be getting. And so it proves to people like, hey, this little guy who is 5'3", nothing, no real strength abilities, looks like somebody that would be an easy target, just took your lunch. That's being a blue belt.
That's awesome. That's a great answer, dude. I also really commend you for having that standard in your school because, I'm all for anyone that has a school making money and making a living. That's obviously the whole. We want jiu-jitsu instructors to make a lot of money so that the art stays strong and always stays present in the world. But at the same time, it should never be to the detriment of the art. I think that what separates jiu-jitsu from
100%.
Like a lot of people that came from other martial arts, like I did before jiu-jitsu, part of the appeal of jiu-jitsu was, man, this is like a real like fighting effective thing. This isn't so much like, you don't get good at jiu-jitsu by just showing up and filling out a card, and you don't move up in rank in 6 months. You don't get a black belt in a year in this art. This is something different.
Thank God, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think that people like you who are holding that line, that's really important, man. So congrats on that.
I mean, I can't imagine if my life was about something like I already think my life is kind of funny because it encompasses something that is really funny. Like it's a hobby. I am great at hobbies. I'm a great hobby person, and I know how to teach you how to get good at this other hobby, right? So we're talking about jiu-jitsu as a hobby, but at least it's complex, and thank God for that, because if it wasn't complex and my life revolved around it, I'd be so bummed out. I'd be so bummed out if my whole life was like a couple side kicks and breaking a board, every other week. I'd be like, man, crap. I'm waking up questioning my life. I still question my life now because I'm on the phone talking about jiu-jitsu positions with one of my friends. Like, yeah, what if I put that De La Hiva hook in? They're like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like talking like I'm a moron. Like we're just talking in our own like Dungeons and Dragons version, like, nerdum. So it's nice that it's at least hard.
Yeah. I pictured you having, like, if you were just doing side kicks and breaking boards, like that'd be like a lot of trips to Home Depot. There might be shortages of pine. Yeah. Like pine might be on a national shortage.
You're just going to see me in the backyard crying, breaking wood sheets. I'm just like, hey, what's wrong with him? I don't know. He hasn't come out in the past couple of days. He's just been breaking wood in the back.
He's got a demo in a couple of weeks. He's trying to get ready for.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, so you mentioned earlier that's your stand. That's your definition of what separates a white and a blue belt. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what do you think separates a blue belt from a purple belt? Like, what do you think a blue belt should be doing, or what should they be aspiring to achieve in order to advance in your opinion?
Purple belts are my favorite to pick on, because to become a purple belt, you have to know the move that I'm showing, but a variation that you like better. It's like, oh yeah, coach does this, but I like to put my foot here.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't change the move. That doesn't change anything.
And then they name it.
What are you talking about?
They name it after themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. But between a purple belt is when you start really putting together a game that you're like, let's say you have like a comfortability in half guard, and you have a comfortability in, let's say, a little bit of De La Hiva, right? So De La Hiva and half guard is where you're comfortable. Now is when you should start, like, I think of it as the Hansel and Gretel I think that's the right name of where they left breadcrumbs, so they could get back or whatever. Well, hopefully nobody eats the breadcrumbs, but you kind of start to develop yourself out into different guards and start to have an attack there. So if you're good at half guard, you start getting into deep half guard, and you start touching that area over there, and you start to build yourself a game of things that when things aren't going right, you know how to kind of refunnel them back into what you know. And I also believe a purple belt should be able to give a black belt a good look. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about like a world champion, but like when I go with a purple belt, I expect for them to make some really good choices and for me not to walk through their guard like it was nothing. Yeah. And to get to that point, there's a certain commitment level now. I believe it's writing things down. I believe it's tracking your inventory. I always like to call it tracking inventory, because if you track inventory, you're saying, okay, I got an arm bar. You go, you know what? Let me check my arm bar. Maybe my arm bar is a blue belt arm bar. Can I get a purple belt arm bar? So you're trying to just not say like, oh, I know this thing. You're like, hey, I need to relook at this thing. And I think at every belt, you need to relook at everything you already know, because you're understanding the body differently each time as you move forward. That means things are going to change that you once thought were the reasons why things were. So you thought, well, I'm getting the arm bar because I'm pulling down on the wrist and I'm pushing my hips up into the bend of the elbow, right? And then you realize that that's not really it. It's how close your butt and how much of their shoulder is involved in the arm bar, because you don't have to lift your hips up at all if you got a good arm bar. Like if you're deep on an arm bar, you don't have to lift your hips up. So it's like seeing those details where like, well, this is the lever, but I don't have to lift a lever if I do this correctly. So it's starting to clean things up and look at more of explore out into other guards, have other defenses and offenses from that offshoot from your De La Hiva to your single leg X. Single leg X should go to X. You should have something from each there. I think that's one of the things that as a black belt is huge, is that people can push me into different areas, but I understand each one of those areas enough to survive there, and as long as it takes me to get back to somewhere else where I do feel comfortable.
That was brilliantly explained, man. And there's something within what you just said there that I'd like to pick your brain on too. So something that I commonly, at least in my experiences when I was a blue belt, I remember I spent most of my white belt time learning just the fundamentals and the basics and the things that my instructor was telling us to drill and repeat and learn. Things, elbow escapes, shrimps, upas, all that kind of stuff. Once I got to blue belt, I felt like it kind of was like, okay, now you're going to enter into kind of the rest of jiu-jitsu. Like you're going to kind of see all the different variations of guard, all the different kind of sweeps that are out there, all the different, hundreds of techniques that exist. Go have at it, and basically it was just kind of like sort of just being a sponge and collecting sort of everything, learning a little bit of everything in jiu-jitsu. And then it wasn't until I was a purple belt that I took all those collective pieces and started putting together an actual game of my own. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that as blue belts that's the way to go, or should they be thinking about what their game should be as a blue belt like right away?
I don't think anybody should be thinking of what their game is necessarily. I mean, there's two ways of looking at game. Your game can either hold you back or your game can propel you forward. My game, if I'm at a blue belt, is to let's say a half guard. Like a half guard is one of my best guards. Like I want to attack people from half guard in competition, right? But I don't want to focus so much on half guard that when he stands up, I go, what? Like, okay, maybe reverse De La Hiva, and maybe I'm going to, should you develop a game? You should develop things that chain together, because you should have a tree, right? That tree branch should move out, but you should easily be able to go up. I fucked up and went too far. Let me hop backwards. Let me go like I went deep half. Oh, this guy's starting to pressure my deep half. He's really making things hard. Let me spin back out to half guard. Let me go to X guard. Okay, he's way too crazy here. Let me bail and go backwards. So you should always have like a base. Like, okay, this is my base. Half guard is my base, right? I'll explore out there and try to mess with people in different areas and stuff I'm working on. But as soon as they start to like really destroy me there, I go back to my safe place, you know? And I think having a safe place is your game, is the place where that's your game. Your safe place is where you feel confident that you can sweep, protect, defend, and then everything else outside of that is not necessarily your safe place, but you're trying to make it your safe place. You're like your place where you feel like you can attack and defend. If you feel like you can't attack, like let's say, I would say less than anything else, leg entanglements are not my safe place, but I have a safe place to go. 50-50 is safe for me, right? So 50-50, I feel good. When I start going into different leg entanglements against guys who really know what they're doing, I feel somewhat uncomfortable, and I'm always looking for the knee line, right? But I kind of know how to direct things back into my favor for 50-50. Doesn't mean I'm going to kill it there. I'm going to be the best there, but I feel confident enough in that space to not give away anything stupid and to kind of break myself back in and get out of 50-50 if I need to, or start to pass. So it's like I'll go into 50-50 and I'll look for things for leg locks and stuff like that, and I'll get a little bit too deep into something and I'll feel like I'm out of bounds, in my of my knowledge, and I'll start to retreat back to safety. But I always try to go outside of my bounds of safety so that I can kind of have a look at what the other side is. You know, like I want to peek over and look at the enemy and see what they're doing and understand it a little bit more, and then come back and do reconnaissance later. You know, so I think that's the biggest thing, is having your game is your safe place. And you should build safe places all over the place, because the more safe places you have, the better your jiu-jitsu is.
Do you pay much attention to someone's attributes? Like if you have a student, say, that's 5'2", skinny, not like, you know, a super strong looking guy, but he's flexible, would you often encourage him to pursue a different game than, say, a stockier guy that might be a lower
yeah,
pressure
sometimes,
processor?
but not really. They kind of fall into those positions regardless, right? They I mean, you don't really catch too many guys with that things don't work for them and that's their game. Like, you know, like let's say if I have, so I do this for my kids a lot. Like, I'll have some kids that are really short. I'll have some kids that are 16 that are not strong. They're females that are they haven't come into their own body yet. And their game, and I have to build a game for them, which is like collar sleeve, lapel, or lasso guard, different stuff like that. Because when things were working before, De La Riva was working, you know, like our De La Riva guard was working for them. And now they're getting smashed hard on it. You know what I mean? Like the girls are just like crushing through it. Right. I'm like, okay, well, we got to retune something, because how do we make you a better safe place now? So it's like, yeah, there's certain people that I think like spider guard is very important for those lanky people. And the collar sleeve, lasso guard, double sleeve, anything that you're looking at like that, those are good for light people, because you can make the person who's very strong carry your weight, you know, and really have to bend over and get exhausted. And that's what I think smaller people should be able to do, is exhaust the bigger person, you know? So yeah, sometimes I do that, but generally I try not to separate things. I always try to give things that, well, if it doesn't work for you, here's the next thing, you know, here's the other thing that looks like that.
Malachy, the sport and the art have obviously evolved a lot over the years. Like, for example, I remember when I was a blue belt, I think it was maybe a white and maybe early blue belt. We weren't allowed to do like leg locks, for example. That was something that was reserved for people that had been there. So I think it was like 2-stripe blue belts and above could do leg locks at the school that I initially started training at. Do you feel that the growth of the sport has caused a demand for students to learn more advanced techniques earlier in their development compared to the past?
I think for competitors, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I really like the gi for beginning, because it takes you, like, number one, you learn how to win by inches in the gi, right? Like you win by small fractions of like, whoever can slow the game down can destroy the other person. And I think that's important. And then keeping them away from leg locks in the beginning is important as well, because like upper body submissions are super important. Learning to get to dominant positions to get to those submissions are important. And I think that like, it's almost like where you have these Dagestanis wrestling, right? Like you got Khabib and you got guys like that. And so what's their background? Combat Sambo. But what's before that? Wrestling and judo and Sambo without strikes.
Yeah.
Right. So they didn't add the strikes in there until there are other parts of their game were very good. And so like, if you want to throw out and make a blue belt world champion, right? Like you're trying to create a no-gi ADCC Cole, I don't know how to say his last name.
Kolabate. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to make him, then maybe you have to break the rules. But I like my competitors to move up in small doses, and I don't want them to have that kill pill, right? Like where like they just keep using the same leg lock in every tournament and they're just destroying people because they're not at that level with leg locks yet. It will hold my own student back, because that's what they're going to use. If you win with it, use it every time. It's like having the winning lottery numbers. Why not use the winning lottery numbers if you know you're going to win? So taking some of those things off the table and then trying to introduce them later, I think is more important than going, hey, white belt, learn this leg lock real quick, and like make sure you're good at it because other people might try it on you. So I think it all depends on how we cultivate the new competition environment. And I think we all need to take a semi-pro thing needs to happen. Like where you get so many wins somewhere that you get into a semi-pro league, which will be much more fun to watch. Right. And then you don't have, hobbyists, right, who work, 8-hour jobs and then come in and try to do 2 or 3 hours of training and they want to win, but they don't have the time to do it 3 to 4 times a day, 3 to 4 time trainings a day. And now they're going against you in the first, and you're a purple belt. And in reality, you're really a black belt. Because you'll beat most black, so the purple belt world champion would beat, I don't know, I'm say something insane, but let's say 60% of black belts, right?
It could be fair,
right. That's right. So, I mean, that's being fair. I don't even know. It could be more.
Yeah, I think it's realistic.
Yeah, and you have a regular purple belt who's good. They're a purple belt, but they're getting ransacked, and there's they still stick it out, but there's no growth in competition there. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's sandbagging, I do the same thing. My kids I don't move my kids up. All these other kids that are coming from where they do it every 3 months where they give you a stripe. I have a kid in there that's gray with white stripe with 2 stripes. Sweet kid, very nice. Just came to me because they kind of figured out what was going on over there. And then they're with me and they're having to do much more basic things because I'm having to clean up a whole bunch when they should have been a white belt for longer. But they were very hungry to give the kid a belt. Kid feels good, keep going. And then all of a sudden they're at a tournament. And I think I saw them and they were talking to us and they said, this is his first tournament. It was IBJJF in Atlanta. Right. And we're from South Carolina and they were from South Carolina. I'm like, holy crap, what are they doing? You know how long it took me to prepare my kids to go to their first IBJJF Kids Open? Like we've been doing new breeds like crazy before we even touched IBJJF because it's one and done. It's a little bit intimidating to be there, and there's kids out there, if you've seen them, that are mini adults that look like with their movements that look like, and they're wearing a gray belt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those are the kids that are going to be at blue belt doing the same stupid thing. And they're going to be, it's like, I think there should be a semi-pro league where you win so much that you get moved into a different category. And sure, you get shinier medals, and it gives the other competitors another goal to reach. They want to get to the semi-pro level. I'm here, I'm winning golds here. I'd like to get to the semi-pro level here, So I just think that there's different ways to keep our sport active, you know, because I don't plan on playing tennis against Serena Williams if I decide to play competitive tennis, you know. But I might. But this is the only sport where you could play Serena Williams, you know. And it just all of a sudden it's in your bracket, and you're like, what the hell is this?
This happened, yeah.
Yeah,
it's exciting. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. And it's also kind of takes you back a little bit when you see that too. I'm glad that you said what you did. I appreciate your insight on this, and I'm glad that you said earlier that like you see gray belts, for example, at the IBJJF Opens that move like adults. That's precisely why I asked the question, because I've seen it. I've seen blue belts these days, or even juvenile athletes, where I'm watching them, I'm like, dude, that kid would have kicked my ass when I was a blue belt. Like, I was like 22, 23 as a blue belt. This kid would have wrecked me. Like, and so I was just curious. Yeah, I was curious if you think that the level of the playing field has changed that at all. But I think you gave a really good insight to that, man.
Yeah, it is. It's different.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, man, Malachy, we've reached about the halfway point of the show, man. You've done this before. This is the Pummel Game. The Pummel's a series of questions. Some of these are about jiu-jitsu. Some of them have nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. But if you're down to play the Pummel a second time, I'd love to play this game with you again.
Let's do it.
All right, man.
Does it have to be short answers?
Yeah, it can be. You can. You can feel free to elaborate. Yeah. I'll throw these at rapid fire, but you can feel free to take your time and elaborate. What's the worst job you ever had?
I worked at Joann's Floor and Fabric, and I was supposed to help everybody with the fabrics, but it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to get there. And I rolled myself up in the fabric to fall asleep. So like I unrolled it and re-rolled it. And then like around 3 o'clock, one of the ladies unrolled the fabric and I came like falling out. And she was like, you can leave. You can go home.
Go ahead and punch out.
You're
Malachy.
done.
Yeah.
You're done. And I was like, so.
Oh, that's hysterical, dude. That's hilarious. I love hearing people who have found success in other things reflect back on the things they failed miserably at, or just things that they just couldn't. Bad. Oh, bro,
I couldn't do.
I'm right there with. I have so many examples. I was a terrible employee before I found one. Before I found my thing, I was terrible. It's funny. I'm glad that no one ever like tried to peel back some of the fabric and like cut some of your beard, thinking it was part of. You know what I mean? Like, give me a roll of that.
Yeah, listen, it was surprising enough to fall out of that thing.
Dude, that must have been hilarious. Somewhere out there's a security camera footage of Malachy falling out of a Joanne fabric roll.
Yeah.
If anyone out there,
and some ladies talking about it.
Yeah. Some ladies telling
some lady's telling the story right now to her grandkids, going like, "You were gonna believe this? He rolled himself in the fabric."
This dude with cauliflower came falling out of a roll. Yes, if you work at Joanne Fabrics out there, someone scour the security tapes for that footage. I'll pay you.
Yes.
That'd be amazing. What do you think is a secret talent that you have, Malachy? Something you're really good at that people might not know about?
That's a terrible question for me. I'm not good at other things.
Just super focused.
I'm not good at anything else. What am I good at? I'm good at predicting what's going to happen next on a TV show.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, that's good.
So listen, people they're like, oh, I'm like, nope, that's the guy who's going to kill him. They're like, Malachy, shut up. I'm like, no, that's the guy. I'm telling you, I'm reading all the signs right now, and it is. I was like, I told you. They're like, nobody cares. We're watching TV.
Like, you're ruining this for us. That's a good talent, though, man. Being able to like pick up on little things. That's got to give you some. That's got to be associated somewhere in jiu-jitsu, like situational awareness or predictive.
Too much, or it's too much TV.
Or too much TV. It could be that too.
It's too much TV. I understand the formats way too well.
It could be. It could be that you need an intervention with your streaming services.
Yeah.
It could be. What do you think is the worst injury you've had in jiu-jitsu?
Man, I've had 3 worse injuries. Two neck surgeries and a lower back surgery.
Oh, damn. Wow.
Yeah, it really changed. So it took me out of fighting, and then like I have like a weak arm on my left side, then my right side becomes weak, then I get surgery. That doesn't really fix things. Then I get a lower back surgery, and I don't have like De La Riva hooks anymore. So like I'm now playing De La Riva different. I'm like having to retool my entire game based upon me not having like dorsiflexion and stuff. So yeah, this has been since 2010.
Wow.
November 2010 to now, I've had my neck, and then 2016 was my back. So yeah, it's hard.
I'm sorry to hear you've gone through that, man. At the same time, though, I always like hearing these kinds of things from people, because there's people out there listening who might have suffered an injury or might have some kind of physical limitation. And it's nice to know that jiu-jitsu really is an art that you can customize and work around stuff if you just stay committed.
Yeah.
And you know, sit there and figure it out in the laboratory, man. Just figure out what you can.
Right, exactly.
Base your game off that. And there's been several things. I mean, jiu-jitsu, like the half guard, like the growth of the half guard all came from Gordo having a knee injury. He couldn't play close guard anymore, so he had to switch to half guard, and that's what led to a lot of revolution in that position. And there's tons of examples like that too. So yeah. What do you think is your favorite bad food to eat?
So it's going to be Carvel ice cream cake.
Nice. That's very specific.
That's it.
I like that. I like that you know your enemy. That's good.
I know what it's like. Hey, you're gonna eat like shit. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna eat like shit. I'm gonna grab a Carvel ice cream cake and I'm gonna eat it to myself until I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Feel like eat them till you're ashamed in yourself. I feel that. Those are delicious, though, man. What do you think? What's your most hated food? What's something you can't eat no matter what?
Oh man, I don't like soups.
Soups, okay.
Oh, no, so that's wrong. I like some soup. I don't like broth soup. I don't like stews. I don't like anything that has to be like hot and wet.
Okay.
I don't think hot food should be wet. That includes coffee, chocolate milk, or hot cocoa.
Okay.
Nothing. I should not be like panting, like, like as I'm like eating food because it's so hot. I'm like out of shape.
I love that you tried to be political there for a second. You're like, I don't hate all soups. I just don't like anything that's hot and wet. You know, that's soup, bro. That's
soup, but it's not soup that's been left out. Soup that's been left out is okay. I can deal with that.
Okay. So a cooled off soup or stew you can handle.
Yeah, there you go.
Like it thickens up.
Not a stew. No stew.
No stews. Okay, just a cooler, slightly thicker soup.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. What do you think was the scariest moment of your life?
I don't know, man. Scariest moment of my life.
Any like near-death experiences or anything? No,
just probably getting into fights with my wife.
that can be very scary, bro. Yeah, depending on the wifey, that can be real scary.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. No, but I don't know, man. I can't think of anything that's really scared me. I'm a really stupid person when it comes to adrenaline. Like, you know, so like when adrenaline things happen, I react. So probably like the scariest thing was like me being nervous or anxious in school or something like that, or like feeling uncomfortable. That was probably the scariest I've ever been. But like when things happen with adrenaline, I turn into I may go towards the danger type adrenaline person. So I don't know what being scared of that stuff is. I'm sure somebody could come in with a machine gun, beat me up, keep me in the corner. That'll probably make me the scariest I've ever been. But so far, it's only been adrenaline stuff, and adrenaline stuff usually wipes out that fear.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you felt for your first MMA fight, but I assume that.
Scared, but I'm not scared of fighting.
Okay.
So competing, I'm not going to say I'm scared to compete. I have nerves,
right?
And I don't want to I don't care about the person. That person can knock all my teeth out. I don't care. I care about showing something that I care deeply about to other people and failing. But I've also learned to kind of take that nervous energy and realize that I'm extremely strong when that's happening. And so I kind of take it as like my go button. Like, so I think for a lot of competitors, they should think of that too, as that nervous energy they're feeling, and they're like, they can't stop moving or yawning or whatever's going on in their body. It's like, relax for a second, relax. Listen, that's your button. You're about to hit your button. And when you hit your button and you feel like you want to get a takedown, that takedown is going to be fucking great. Yeah. You're going to shoot through that person. You know what I mean? So like, that's probably what I would say is my nervous, that I can harness it a little bit, understanding that like my adrenaline is going to help me lift you up.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I think that is something that obviously everyone that competes feels that, and I also like what you said too. I think most of the time it's not from a place of being afraid of getting hurt. It's more of a place of like, I want to do well. I don't want to perform poorly. Right. I want to this thing that I love. I want to show how good I am at it. So it's that you care. You care. So you're nervous because you want the outcome because you care,
right? Which
is a good thing. And then secondly, like you said, being able to harness that and turn it into positive energy is what separates some really.
That's what I tell white belts this all the time. I say, they're like, hey, I'm a white belt. I get a lot of questions with this. Hey, I'm a white belt. I'm going to have my first tournament this weekend. What should I do? And I'm like, don't care about the results, because Marcelo Garcia, I'm 100% sure he lost at white belt. Yeah. Who cares? And also this, the only people watching you are going to be probably, if you're married, your wife. If you're not married, your friend, and then that opponent's wife or friend. So there's about 6 people watching your match.
Yeah,
there may be 1,000 people in that area, but only 3 or 4 people actually care who wins or loses this match. So don't take it so hard on yourself. You know, like just try to enjoy it and deal with the nerves and try to harness things and different. So it's like, that's the biggest thing with white belts is that like, hey, this is where you can screw up. Blue belt, this is where you can screw up. You can screw up big. This is okay to do at this stage. You know, so that's how I feel.
No, that's great advice, man. Yeah, sometimes I've said that before. I sometimes miss being a white belt or a blue belt just because of there's not as much pressure. There's not as much expected of you. You know, you're expected to kind of make mistakes. And I like what you said too, is that man, most people watching the people that are watching your matches, it's usually just the people that show up to watch you. And most of the time, they don't even know what they're watching anyway. Like a lot of them don't even understand what you're doing necessarily unless they train too. So yeah, great advice, man. Great advice. Who do you think is your favorite grappler of all time?
I would say Low.
Yeah,
Leandro.
Great choice. Rest in peace. Choice.
He's always going to be the guy to look at for creating moments that happen within a minute. You know, like the Leandro moment, you know, which is like you're 0-0 and all of a sudden the sweep comes and there's nothing stopping it. You know what I mean? So that's a really low. I mean, I wish there was more of them, you know, and that's unfortunate that that's gone. I have to look for some other guys now, but he's definitely the man.
Yeah. Definitely very miss. Almost to the date that we lost him, man. So yeah, definitely a great choice. Oh, yeah. Rest in peace to him. Who do you think is your favorite MMA fighter of all time?
Of all time? So it was Nick Diaz. It's still Nick Diaz. From like old school Diaz. Before Nate got really popular, you know, Nick was terrorizing people. Yeah. But if I can go as far back as I want to, it's always going to be Joachim Hansen from Pride.
Nice.
Shuto and Pride, he was the man. Yeah. He had good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling. He had good, amazing striking. He was everything that I wanted to be in MMA.
That's an excellent choice, man. Yeah, that you might be the first person that's listed him as their favorite, man. That's a classic too. I used to love Pride, man. Yeah, watching him fight was incredible. He was very, very well rounded.
Vicious, and there's videos, highlights of the guy punching him and he's headbutting the punches.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you can't. He's a Viking. That's a Viking right there.
Viking shit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I also love the Diaz brothers, man. So definitely good choices there. What do you think is the best prank that you've ever pulled on anyone?
I don't know if I pulled any pranks. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have the patience.
There's a lot of planning.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of work and trying to get something to happen. Like, I think my only prank is like boo. Like I walk out of the room and then I hide behind a door for a second. But if it takes longer than 2 minutes, I'm not hiding behind that door.
It's great. You know? I love that. Here, let me ask you another one then. What do you think is your favorite place in the world that you've been to?
I mean, I went to Cuba. Cuba was really nice. I'd like to go back. Now they've opened up the airways. I think I haven't been around enough places in America really to be honest. So probably I want to see like the Appalachian, not the trek. I don't want to walk anywhere. I want to see like, I want to see mountains in Tennessee and stuff like that. So they look nice. So here's the thing. I don't like traveling. I love looking at pictures that I think would be nice, but getting there, I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I'm like, I'm done with it. I moved to Oregon and there was a giant mountain in my backyard, right? And not in my back window. And I'm like, that's wild. I'm like from the South where there's no mountains.
Yeah.
It was Mount Hood. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And then I'm done with it. I don't know why. I'm a bad explorer.
So we'll never see you climbing like Everest or anything like that, or
No, I don't know why. You won't catch me hiking like even like Hollywood, like where like people like it's like a quick trek up and down for exercise.
Yeah,
we have a bridge here that you can walk across that goes very high. I'll never walk that bridge or run that bridge.
That's great. That's great. I love that, man. Malachy, last time you were on the show, we got a funny answer from you when I asked you this question. If you could pick a superpower, what superpower would you choose? I want to see if your answer is the same as it was last time.
I think it was floating, wasn't it?
Yeah, you said flying as long as you could choose the velocity because you didn't want to fly at walking speed.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it.
It's still one of my favorite answers, yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly the same answer. I do want to get to places fast, but I want to, I don't want to fly at like a hot air balloon pace.
Still one of my favorite answers. I love that. Yeah, that would be like the ultimate screw job of being able to fly, but you can only like float like a bubble. That'd be terrible. Like
You're just barely getting above things. You're like, I'll see you in an hour.
The view's great. I'm not going to travel there, but the view's cool. I like it. Yeah. That's awesome. Who's your favorite superhero?
Oh man. Right now, so the new Deadpool, the second Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
I hope they make a superhero movie about the girl Domino.
That'd be good.
Domino was the one that like where everything just works out for her by accident.
Yep.
That was the coolest sequence I've ever seen in my life of like people just slipping and like her moving and like things just happening and working in her favor. I think whoever that's like, so there's like, hey, there's Wonder Woman. Stop giving us like boring Wonder Woman. Right. Who's like, she's like so goody. Give us a little bit of an edge, give us Domino, and let's like let people's imagination go wild on how many things just work out in her favor because things happen. Like extreme. So if nobody's watched Deadpool, it's the Deadpool, like when they're in the truck or something. And I forget whether they're driving and whatever's happening. But yeah, I think that would be, not to say she's my favorite, right? But I think that's the one movie I think that needs to be made. That would be cool. That's a good choice, man. I remember Domino from the comics back in the day. So when they added her in that, I was kind of like, oh damn, cool. Like, that's I hope she's back. I hope she comes back too. I mean, geez, it's a great, I mean, like, I know Marvel is it Marvel or DC? That's Marvel. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Marvel's just killing DC, dude. Yeah, they're doing pretty good. They're doing pretty good. Yeah. They got a lot. Yeah. I just watched the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Oh, great movie. Yeah. That destroyed me, man. Yeah. That was the worst. Like, God, I was crying. I'm like supposed to watch like a comedy, like an action comedy. And I'm like, just like sitting there sobbing the whole time. Jeez. Took you through the whole range of emotions, huh? Oh, range of emotions, yeah. That's excellent, man. Yeah, no, Marvel's doing great. I think DC's for me the best thing DC did was Dark Knight, and then there was a lot of other things they did where I was just kind of like, not too bad, but nothing crazy. They're a little bit artistic with stuff, yeah. Yeah, they are. I haven't watched the whole Flash, but I heard it was terrible. Somebody told me it was terrible. I haven't seen it at all. So yeah, I'm only at like 10 minutes into it, but I mean. Maybe that's good. Maybe I don't know. There's things that Marvel has, and when, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, right? That shows you like I started looking things up, like who the gold guy was. What's his name? It starts with the Warden or something like that. Oh yeah. He was created by that guy. They were created by different civilizations. and it goes so back that the whole entire time in the comic books, we didn't even know that Rocket guy had something to do with those people.
Yeah.
And he was created. That's so intelligently put together that they combine the worlds together so tightly that everything moves off each other, but they don't have to they can have 2 movies in a row without even having a backstory on a real backstory.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, man, Stan Lee or whoever did it, man, congratulations to those guys. They deserve a prize.
Yeah, dude. Like, one of the things that means most to me in movies is the writing. Like, if the story's real flimsy, and I can tell they just kind of threw it together to throw some CGI stuff in there, and bring some nostalgic characters around. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's cool, but like it's not something I'll watch it again. Like, I won't watch it twice.
Right.
Whereas you have something that's really deeply well written, I can watch that over and over again. Yeah,
it's basically George R. R. Martin.
Yes.
Is like, like when they do stuff like that, and it's like, hey, he created a universe.
Yes. That
universe can go on forever. You could be making 30 to 40 spinoffs if you wanted to, based on just his books, which means that they're genius. People that can do that are special people.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, it's the layering of stories and the intersections, like you said, of different parts of the universe that all come together well. Without throwing something in there and being like, oh, we didn't tell you about this, but he's also a werewolf. Yeah,
like that shit.
It's like, dude, what third grader wrote this? Yeah. No, I'm totally with you, man. It's funny when you mentioned the DC stuff, like how, man, I actually had to walk out. I think it might be the only movie I ever walked out of was Aquaman. I just couldn't do it. I got 30 minutes in. I like Jason Momoa a lot as an actor.
Yeah.
But man, just the writing and the story, I was just like, dude,
so bad.
I just can't do this. I just can't do it. I didn't like it at all.
Even when they were all together, it wasn't that great. It's like, yeah, I got to finish The Flash, but it's too bad that there's some really good characters in DC that we'll probably never see.
I know.
But Marvel's getting into like, hey, what do we have beyond the X-Men? Hey, what do we have beyond? And they're going into these characters, and going deep into their world and creating substance off of people that didn't really carry a huge amount of substance. Like they're not, like, you're not buying those comic books of Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, or Rocket or whatever, but you knew that they were a backstory somewhere in there, and then all of a sudden they become a forefront of the story, which makes it fun. That's why I think, come on, if Marvel Studios is listening, Domino,
let's do it.
We want Domino.
Let's go. Absolutely. Yeah. No, man. One of the things I really enjoyed recently, there's two. The character Magneto in the X-Men. I thought they've done some really cool things with him in the movies. The scene where he's leaving Auschwitz as a kid. That was that's insane, bro. Goosebumps every single time I watch that scene. Incredible. And then when he's an adult and he's in Argentina hunting down the Nazi guys that were living in Argentina.
What movie? This
is Magneto. This was X-Men. Was that First Class? X-Men First Class, where he's down in Argentina hunting.
I gotta go look at these again.
Dude, I think it's First Class.
The newest X-Men weren't great.
Yeah.
The latest X-Men weren't great.
Yeah.
That was my only issue, is that some of them weren't good, and you see what Deadpool's doing, and that's what we want. Like, I don't want Deadpool necessarily. I know that there's a whole lot of Deadpool fans, right? I think I think he's a little bit corny.
Yeah.
Like a little bit like with the raunchy comedy.
Yeah.
I like some of it, but I'm not like, yeah, let's go, man. It's funny. But what they did with Juggernaut, like, I want to see Juggernaut like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, put that in the movie. I want to see Juggernaut. I want to see like wild, like with their own character and their own personality. That's what I want to see. I want to see somebody go to jail and there are all those, like, there's like different villains and things like that are like, have their own weird personality. It's like, give me that shit, because that's the good stuff. Like, you can do crazy things with that. Just going into bag, like, so if you just go to your bag and you just go Professor X.
Yeah.
What? Have you seen Legion?
Yeah, I saw Legion. Yeah.
That was great until the end.
Yes.
But they did a fantastic job with that. So Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, like I want to watch movies with people I don't really know, but you can develop. You know,
yes, absolutely. The one character I've always like kind of held my breath and hoped that they come back and make like a really good movie of it is Punisher. Punisher was always one of my favorites, but I feel like you had the Dolph Lundgren one that was okay. It was late '80s, early '90s. So it was kind of an expected amount of cheesiness to it, just being from that era. And then they tried to do one with John Travolta involved in it, where he was the villain.
Dude, listen, I like that one.
Did you?
The Thomas Jane one?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Listen, when he was fighting that big Russian dude in the apartment, right? That was good.
Yeah.
And then when the guy who's going to kill him is singing him a song before he kills him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like maybe it wasn't great, but they had the parts of the villains that had personalities. So you got the giant Russian, and he's like just getting the shit mopped up with him in the apartment, which it looks like that's how a comic book would look, right? They would be going through different, like slamming you through the floors of the wall, and then you have the guy who's singing a song, and there's no fight until later. It's like a showdown.
Yeah.
I like stuff like that, and I think that the Thomas Jane version was good. They could make it better, but they were headed in the right area, I thought, in the beginning.
I think the one thing they could do better is they could take. So Punisher is one of those characters who's really gritty, and he's one of the characters who literally kills people. And I think that Marvel, especially in modern times, wants to distance themselves a little bit from actual shooting people's heads off.
But you saw Netflix, right?
The Netflix one wasn't bad. I also liked. I thought the angle of him being an Iraq vet was kind of cool. I thought that was kind of a cool modern twist. But man, did you ever see Warzone? Punisher Warzone?
No.
That was
maybe not.
I thought that was really bad. And frankly,
it's probably
Marvel didn't even do it. They contracted it out, and I think they contracted it out because it's like, hey, if this is going to be like a real violent shooting, blowing up kind of movie, I don't know that we want to have Marvel on that. But I wish they would just embrace Punisher for what he is, which is just an ass kicking, blowing heads off kind of Duke Nukem almost type of guy.
So the Daredevil, right? Kind of a boring TV show.
Yeah.
Unless you have Kingpin in it.
Yes.
Who's a great character. True. And then when Kingpin was getting it was kind of a crossover in the Punisher with the Kingpin, perfect. That's great because Kingpin is a great villain, and whoever that actor is fantastic. And then you have the Punisher, who's not a great personality, but he's the shoot 'em up, gun 'em up type guy that you want to see fight those. So there's places for everything, I think. And I'm not even I'm talking about this like I love it. I'm not even a huge superhero fan.
Dude, you'd have had me fooled, man. This is the longest
I like TV. I like TV.
Oh, man.
I really do. So I remember somebody maybe on a different podcast, they asked me, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu? And I said, hopefully writing for TV.
Yeah, I remember that. That's right. You did say that.
I really like it. And so, anything that has a story and I can kind of get involved in, and I'm like, oh man, there's so many different facets of this guy. And sometimes when something happens in a show that I wasn't expecting, I'm like, clever, smart, funny, way to go, way to knock that out of the ballpark. I want to share it with everybody, but nobody really gives a shit. I call my wife down. I'm like, look at this, look how they tied it together. She's like, that's good, Malachy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah.
Right. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Well, dude, you had me fooled, man. This is the most I've gotten to nerd out on comic stuff and movies like this in many episodes. So I appreciate that. Final question. If a zombie apocalypse breaks out right now in South Carolina, what's the first thing you do?
Get fucked up. I'm not a survivor.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
I'm not a bomb fallout. People are all zombies. I'm gonna get exhausted.
Okay.
I don't want to keep moving. I don't want to live in a little shack. At some point, I'm just gonna go out there and try to F up as many zombies as possible and die.
Just
because I don't want to, you see how long The Walking Dead has been?
Oh yeah, it goes on and on. Yeah.
Imagine listen, that's been since 2010. Yeah. It's 2023 and Daryl is still running from zombies. That's 13 years of his life right now. I'm done, dude. He's not having fun. He's not enjoying himself. All he's doing is going from one bad place to another.
Oh, dude, yeah. On the fun scale, he has not been having a good time for sure.
He's not having a good time.
I had to stop watching after season. I think it was season 2 or season 3. Like I kind of at season 3 things started to just get a little repetitive. It kept dragging on, so I was kind of like, yeah, all right. But it's I can appreciate certain aspects of that show though. But it's I feel you on this. So you would eventually just join the horde. You just walk out there, let them bite you eventually, and just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna let them bite me. I'm gonna try to survive, but I'm definitely not going to like run every single time I have to run. At some point I'll run. I'll be like, it's been 15 months. I'm fucking done. Yeah. It's time for us to grab some Uzis and just see what happens.
Let's go out with a bang.
Let's just go. And then I die. That's the same way I think about like if I was a Viking, I would have been like dead too, because like, I wouldn't be like the killer. I know I'm tough. I know I can do but I'm just not going to back down because I got the mentality and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go in with a hatchet until somebody hatchets me. So I'm not going to make it past 19 probably. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's that kind of mentality. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to do this kind of shit all the time. Okay. I guess I'm dying young.
That's outstanding, dude. Well, hey, at least you know yourself, man. Some people have these fantasies in their head of what they do. At least you know where you're at, man. That's good.
Yeah.
Malachy, that was the final question for the Pummel Game. Congratulations, you're a 2-time Pummel champion. You got your double underhooks.
Nice.
So, man, we were talking earlier about competition, about advice that you gave for people new to competition. I'd like to go back there if you don't mind. So, how beneficial is competition to development, in your opinion?
It depends on your development of what you want, right? So like you can get really good at competition level jiu-jitsu and still be deficient in like I see this a lot with MMA fighters, right? Like where like they have really shitty jiu-jitsu, they have really shitty stand-up, but it all somehow works together, right? But I think what competition does is it shows you where you're weakest, and it shows you that you weren't ready for that. You know, like you may think you know how to pass De La Riva until somebody sweeps you easily with their De La Riva. And I think that's what competition could be used as, is a soundboard for your techniques. It goes like, well, that didn't work out. I need to work on that a lot. Like that's not as solid as I thought it was. So I think that it can be used to improve your jiu-jitsu. If you do it in the right way. It can also hold back your jiu-jitsu because only thing you want to do is win. So it's like I have this story, which I'm not sure if I made up or not, but it's I have a white belt came in with like amazing athletic ability, a little bit of wrestling, and then another guy came in that was like a weakling with nothing. And they both trained for a year. The white belt, who with all the athletic ability and grappling, wanted to win every single roll, right? And so he just kept doing what he was doing. He didn't do jiu-jitsu. He never adopted jiu-jitsu really. On the other end, the guy who was small and didn't know what he was doing had to actually do jiu-jitsu. And then he starts having success after a year, and the other guy starts having less success. It's because that guy only concentrated on winning and not learning how to do things properly. And the other guy the only thing he could do was practice on doing things properly to win. And that's what can happen for competition if you only practice properly how to win. You know, there's a lot of shortcuts, and I know, and sometimes I know that I'm giving some of my kids shortcuts. You know, I mean, I'm like, this is going to finish them. You know what I mean? Like, if we can, no kid, like I tell my kids this, no other kids that are competing are going to know this. They're not like, you're going to blow them out of the water because they don't know what this is. They're going to be, you know, so like, that's me. I have to think about stuff like that just so that we have those in our back pocket, those kind of techniques, like, you know, like different attacks and stuff that we use, that I just don't think kids understand. But if my kids do understand and can force it in that direction, you're done. But it could also hold them back because that's all they want to do. You know, they only want to do the things that other kids don't know how to do so they can win. And then it kind of holds back and stagnates their progress everywhere else.
That's really interesting, man. Yeah. That's really interesting. What do you think are some of the best like battle tested strategies that you give these kids? Like what are some examples of like a good strategy for a tournament that could apply to anyone that you feel is pretty useful?
Learn some takedowns early, right? Because getting 2 points to start is great. So if you learn how to get some like basic takedowns, it can really, really, really change your winning, because you can relax a little bit more with being up 2 points, right? Also, some of the stuff that we go over is how to finish an armbar properly, right? So like not falling backwards for an armbar, right? Understanding when you're like kind of falling off the back, that like the person has to do is get the elbow up and around the waist, and you're no longer on the back. So the concept of always being behind the elbow, my kids understand that. And so it's like, hey, you're falling off. Either you're going to go for the arm bar because you're falling off the back, or you're going to go backwards behind the elbow, because if you're behind the elbow, you're still on the back, right? And so if you're blocking the elbow, so there's like concepts that other children really don't understand, that I see happen in so many different times in so many different ways, that it goes, well, this is where the turnovers are happening. Like, so when I say turnover, this is where the mistakes are happening and you're being reversed, and now they're on top of you, and now they're harassing you with a pass. Right. And so it goes, so we're never going to sit to our butt for an armbar, because sitting to our butt for an armbar gets us stacked. Right. So anytime we do a arm bar for mount or anything like that, it's shin over neck rolling into spider web, right? Like I got kids at 5, 6 years old doing this, like falling off the back, doing shin over neck, rolling into spider web, because I might as well teach the version that I want them to know throughout all of jiu-jitsu now, rather than teaching them to grab the arm, throw the leg over the face, pull back on a thing. It goes, no, at competition, they're going to start stacking you. They're going to get out of that. So it's like, you look at what happens most in the errors of jiu-jitsu, and you fix that. So you go, kids are making a lot of mistakes with these. How can I exploit that and make that happen? And how can I not allow that to happen to us?
Something else you said a second ago, you said that it's important to learn takedowns early. I couldn't agree with you more on that. What do you think are what do you think is the most, I guess, fun, like effective takedown that you think any practitioner who plans to compete?
Single leg.
Single leg, yep.
Yeah, single leg, getting used to the single leg. So like I'm not a great takedown person. So as a coach, I'm really good takedowns against the wall, right? So like picking people up off the wall, I'm really good at it. I understand that that's like it's 2D wrestling. It's not 3D. But I have I try to get the single. If I can't get the single, I look for the drop seonagi. You know what I mean? Because I'm now like getting their hips out of place and stuff like that. So like combining moves, chains to things that I know that normally happen, getting into wrestling, Russian ties, I think is important. That's what I'm at least working on with my students is learning the Russian tie, because it's like, you don't see it very often in jiu-jitsu. And so, but a lot of mistakes happen and you lose the single leg, you look for the body lock. Somehow they're starting to pummel in on the body lock. And then you go to Russian tie and you can go back to the single. So it's just learning things like that are going to help you chain stuff together and getting on top, because I believe being on top is the best. Being on top with 2 points, and being like I say, like being like a bastard, because you got to learn how to be a bastard on top. So, and like just melting kids away with your passing, and then finally breaking them with a pass, and then going to mount, then finishing is the way to go. So like we learn a ton of guard stuff, but I want all my kids on top,
That's excellent. Yeah, I love that you said single leg. 'Cause I believe that single leg is probably statistically one of the most highest percentage takedowns that works for.
It's pretty easy to get. Like in reality. So is it hard to finish against good guys? Of course, but at white belt level, unless the guy's been wrestling a long time, then you should be good to go. Like having a single leg is pretty damn unbalancing. You just got to work it a little bit.
Well, man, for anyone out there listening that wants to fix whatever aspect of your game you're trying to fix, actually, Malachy has 6 different instructionals with us here at BJJFanatics.com. I really recommend any title that he has. He's got everything from sweeps to Darce chokes to strategies on the feet. So escaping.
Yes. Fully locked Darce chokes. I put a bounty on my own head at one point. I was saying best 2 out of 3. Come get some, because I tested it against some of the best guys in the world. Right. I did it with Keenan, and I got out of the Darce. Keenan also told me I'm not great at Darces. I said, yeah, I'm sure also Keenan Cornelius. So fucking come on, man. Give me a little bit. I tested it with some of those guys and they said it was good. And, I feel very confident in getting out of every locked Darce. The Darce killer is not a Darce move. It's how to get out of every friggin' Darce, because everybody gets stuck in a Darce and they're like, okay. And it's like, you did nothing. Why are you waiting? You should be moving. Like, I hate this, the wait. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's times to be fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, that instructional I meant, forgive me about that. It's called the Darce Killer. It's all about stopping Darce chokes. So if you guys are getting messed up with Darce chokes, this is a great one. And then you've also got the flower sweep instructional. You've got one with strategy. You have one with strategy on the feet, correct? Is there a strategy?
Yeah, I have. So strategies all across. It's different ways to create submissions. Some of the things, like there's one thing I do where I realize that I'm losing. I'm down. And there's a video of me somewhere winning within 1 second before the bell ends because I'm down. But I know that it's going to be a referee decision, and the guy almost passed my guard. So I'm like, okay, he's going to go with the other guy. So I stand up like really, really tall, and they ankle sweep. They lumberjack me. And as soon as they come up, because I know that I just try to come back up. I know they're going to be forcing their way up, and I grab a guillotine. Because I know that they're going to hold me in their guard and not let me have anything. But I know that they're too much of too greedy not to take the easy sweep. So I set the easy. So strategies are that kind of stuff. It's where it's like we're all conditioned to sweep somebody that when it's easy to sweep them, to put the nail in the coffin. And I take that nail in the coffin and turn it into their coffin. I Houdini them into my coffin.
I love it, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, guys, like we said, he's got 6 different instructionals.
Oh, Heisengard.
Oh, the Heisengard. That was the other one. Yeah, he's got the Breaking Bad theme on the cover. Yeah.
Heisengard is something I created off of a failed omoplata, and really there's no risk in this guard at all. So you can enter the guard from closed guard, from Delahiva, from anywhere, and you have submissions, arm bars, different things. There's just so much to pack in there, and I've watched my guys do it in competition and do well with it. I've watched people that have messed up, and it's risk-free. And it's one of those things that you can plug and play into your game, which is I really like. I don't like adding things where you can't really if you know how to play closed guard and do a scissor sweep, you can do this, So, and I think it's one of those guards that you transfer between. So if you go from closed guard to transferring into the Heisengard, you have a lot of opportunities because there's nothing he can do to attack you, and you're like T-boned on him like this. So there's a lot of things you can do to attack him. Take his back, omoplata, triangle, so many different ideas that are in concepts there that I hope I'm making a second one, but it's been taking me a while because I only have 8 new techniques that I really like, and I don't like putting out shit. Like some people will put out shit. I'm not going to put out, when I have a good solid 12 to 14, I'll put it out, but I want to be proud of it. So I'm proud of all my instructionals so far.
That's out. Well, yeah, they're all the ones I've seen are great, man. I really do enjoy them.
Yeah,
I encourage you guys listening out there, go to bjjfanatics.com, type in Malachy Friedman. You'll see all 6 different instructionals on there, and you can't go wrong with any of them for sure. Malachy, man, in closing, what are some of your major goals for the rest of the year, man? What are some things you hope to do by the time 2023 is over?
Oh man, I'm waiting for the recession to happen. So if the recession can happen, then I can build my academy that went up $1 million.
Yeah, right.
It was like 2.9 million. Now it's 3.9 million.
Oh my God.
I can't mess with these people. So I hope to get my academy fully built. I hope to keep growing my online site, madlabbjj.com. I just hope I'm being more involved and meeting different people at different levels of life and kind of learning from them. That's kind of like, I'm interested in people that are successful or that operate in different, you operate here at one point and then all of a sudden you see these people operating over here and you don't really realize like it's a whole nother group that you're connecting yourself to. So I guess networking and learning from people that are highly successful and can motivate me to be highly successful or motivate me to make changes or try to do things that are hard for me. So I think they're hard for me. If they can give me a little bit of help and give me the answers here or there to kind of help me grow, they're like, oh yeah, man. So, everybody needs a little bit of encouragement and sometimes they need a roadmap from somebody else for them to actually jump. So that's where I hope is that I meet some cool people along the way of this jiu-jitsu journey and they show me different stuff and I can apply that stuff to my life.
Well, folks, unfortunately, we're fresh out of time. Malachy, man, it's always a blast getting to talk with you, man. I really appreciate your time today. Man, you're welcome back on the show anytime you want to come back. I seriously have a lot of fun every time we talk. So
I have a lot of fun. So that's going to mean I'm going to hit you back up and be like, hey, let's talk about more cool stuff.
That's awesome.
After the next Marvel movie.
Yes,
the next Marvel movie, we'll have to do it again.
Dude, let's trade a list of movies to watch and we'll revisit them after we've both watched them. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Good. I look forward to it, man. For anyone out there that wants to keep up with Malachy, it's real easy to do so. He's active on Facebook. His Facebook page there is Black Label Martial Arts. His Instagram is Malachy Friedman. Make sure you guys are following him. He puts up a lot of really cool content, a lot of cool videos that'll help your game. His YouTube channel is Malachy Friedman BJJ. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit the little bell icon to get notified when new videos get added. And also his website is malachyfriedman.com. That's where you can keep up with everything he's got going on from instructionals to seminars and everything in between. If you guys are ever traveling through Charleston, South Carolina, make sure you drop by his school, Black Label Martial Arts. And if you can't make it to South Carolina, you can learn from him anywhere in the world here at bjjfanatics.com. Like we said in the discussion, he has 6 different instructionals and he's available for seminars around the world as well, guys. So Malachy, I do appreciate your time once more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please stay tuned for the next episode of the BJJ Fanatics podcast.